Pledge of Allegiance. Pam, if you would, please.
Heavenly Father, we gather with family and friends this Easter. As we do, let us be reminded of the many blessings we each have in our lives. Be thankful that our country is not at war on this continent, that the majority of people have their basic needs met, and that from the pandemic experiences we faced the past 2 years, we have learned ways to survive and how to live in difficult times. Father, please, excuse me, comfort the Riley family and help us to share your comfort with them and with others that are suffering the loss of loved ones. Life is full of change and challenges that each of us must face. So please grant us the strength and patience to make it through troubled times. I'm thankful for the opportunity of having served the residents of Rock County as a board supervisor. Please bless and guide the newly elected board members in facing and making difficult decisions during the next 2 years. May they keep an open mind and search for knowledge necessary to make good voting decisions. Please bless the outgoing board members as well and be thankful for all that they have shared and the knowledge that they've brought forth the last 2 years. Happy Easter to all, and may you receive an abundance of blessings for the future. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get joked up.
Thanks, Pam.
Lisa, if you would please call the roll.
Agutter?
Here.
Beaver? Baumkamp?
Here.
Pam Bostwick?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Clayson?
Here.
Crary?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Fox?
Here.
Gustina? Holman?
Here.
Knutson?
Here.
Levy? Mowini?
Here.
Mulligan?
Here.
Here?
Rosen.
Podzilny?
Here.
Potter? Rashkin?
Here.
Richard?
Here.
Renish?
Here.
Schulz?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Sweeney? Taylor?
Here.
Williams? Wilson?
Here.
Yeomans? Bostwick?
Here.
23. Or 24.
24 present, 5 absent.
Oh, I forgot. Jesus.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is consent agenda. 4A, adoption of agenda. 4B, approval of the minutes from March 24th, 2022. 4C, nominations, appointments, and confirmations. C1, appointments to the Coordinated Services Team Advisory Committee. C2, appointments to the Children's Community Options Program Advisory Committee. C3, appointment to the Human Services Board. 4D, recognition of county employees or others. D1, recognizing Colin Burns. D2, recognizing Betty Jo Bussey. D3, recognizing Craig Gramke. D4, to recognize Kristen Hackinson. 5, recognizing Correctional Officer Christopher M. Davis. 6, recognizing Correctional Officer Richard M. Jeanette. 7, to recognize Georgia Waterman. 8, honoring Hank Brill. 9, recognizing Patricia Deegan. E, other. 1, acceptance of Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Family Drug Court Program grant funds and creation of 2.0 FTE Human Services Professionals and 1.0 FTE Psychiatric Technician position. 2, approval of maintenance building renovation bid. 3, adopting broadband telecommunicating opportunities and telecommuter forward certification. 4, procurement of HyperFlex. 5, procurement of Cisco Dual. 6, authorizing purchase of two 72-inch mowers for use at new property 5801 North River Road, Janesville, Wisconsin. 7, authorizing acceptance of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for snowmobile grant funds. 8, authorizing purchase of motor pool vehicles for Rock County Department of Public Works for use by the Human Services Department. 9, authorizing purchase of motor pool vehicles for the Rock County Department of Public Works for use by Human Services Department. That's the end of this consent agenda.
Are there any objections to items on the consent agenda? Supervisor Taylor.
I was just wondering if it would be possible to move, on the agenda, move items I through S to the end of the meeting. There's just quite a few members of the public here, and I think, that they're probably interested more so in the substantive items than us congratulating ourselves.
Let's move that to the end of the agenda.
So those are all items honoring outgoing supervisors.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we can grant that.
Okay.
Good suggestion, thank you. Any other objections to items on the consent agenda? Any questions about items on the consent agenda? Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve consent agenda. Supervisor Bryan, seconded by Supervisor Peer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 5, public hearing. 5A, creating Chapter 4, Subchapter 5, Part 14 of the Rock County Ordinances, Broadband Network Project, first reading.
I declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Declare the public hearing closed. Next item, please.
Next item, 5B, repealing and recreating Rock County Ordinance Chapter 2, Part 2, Subpart 2, purchasing and creating Chapter 2, Part 2, Subpart 3, real property transactions, first reading.
Declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. I declare the public hearing closed. Next item, please.
Next item is citizen participation, communications, and announcements. We have 2 citizens that have signed up to speak. The first citizen is Ty Bolerud. Please step up to the podium. You're allowed to speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, Tab Ballard, 4608 Pendleton Court. I wrote the Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin. I said, we ought not murder people and turn our hospitals into morgues. I made him give me records. That finally came on my birthday. It was a pretty weak record, and they haven't fixed it yet. That's the state attorney's office. I don't know what kind of pay to play that is. I remember Ron Johnson had somebody here and talk about fentanyl, and we told them that there was a substance called CPC, angel dust, that they're chopping and putting in people's prescription drugs. And that was a brand new thing, and it was going to have terrible outcome. So I disagree. I think there is war here on this continent. The idea that we get a blueprint like it's like we're a dog in construction. That's how Janesville government operates. And anybody that wants to knows the specifics on that, please look me up. I'd love to talk to them about it. They don't give summons when they serve their warrants, which means they leave an open investigation to everybody that they on a $200 fine. $200 fine, they leave a FISA warrant on every individual, and that's kids too, and parents. What we've seen in schools, Janesville government's been operating a long time that way. You can look up under Chapter 68, Wisconsin State Chapter 68.01, I'm sorry, 001, and you can look up under legislative purpose. It goes to the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And it says they should not be deprived of their rights. We're deprived in Janesville. And unfortunately, the blueprint we should be looking at is one of these. This one right here. It's on a Janesville map. You see Janesville. The Union Pacific goes to Clinton, and then Clinton goes to Beloit. That's the good trail. Historically, the trail that GM was the trail that ran up the river, this river, and then it crossed the bridge. And then it came into Janesville that way. The Department of Transportation, when they bought Wisconsin Southern in 2010, they do not have an open and transparent Department of Engineering on railroad anymore, and that's a fact. They retired all the 25-year-old.
Ty, your time is up. If you would please wind up quickly, please.
Thank you. 25-year-old law judge on rail from the DOT was retired in 2011.
Next speaker is Troy Knutson.
Good evening. Troy Knutson, 8443 South Pinot Grove Road, Beloit. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all, especially the members who are going off of the board for their dedicated leadership and their service to the citizens of Rock County. Way too often, you likely hear the complaints and the difficult problems that need to be solved, and you don't hear thanks nearly enough. It has been a real honor working with you all, and for those of you who are going off the board, I wish you well with whatever comes next. Next, I would just like to express my appreciation to all of you for being here this evening. The business of the county continues every day, and we have an important resolution coming before you tonight that will likely have an extreme impact on the future of the sheriff's office. The board has studied the complex issues with our Pinehurst facility at length. The board has recognized the need for this project way back when changes were made to the sales tax rate for the county. You have evaluated how the Pinehurst replacement plan fits into the county's master plan for facilities management. Many of you have come out to the sheriff's office to personally tour our facility. You have all shown great patience with me as I tried to communicate the philosophy and the intricacies of the plan. You know the impact of this project on officer and inmate safety, as well as the cost of delay. The board has passed earlier resolutions to keep this project on track, and I hope that tonight you'll continue to keep the ball rolling before this project gets bogged down in construction schedules and the sheriff's race. As a county, we have invested millions of dollars in the planning process to get us to this point. As an agency, we have invested a great deal of time and energy in developing the best plans that we can. Facilities management has done a great job of lining up building experts to make this happen. I hope the board will cement its legacy of positive change by passing this evening's resolution to keep this project moving forward. Thank you.
That was our last speaker signed up to speak tonight.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak at this time, please come forward. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Okay, Lisa, you have some written comments.
I had 3 written comments that were submitted. First one is from James Foss from Janesville, Wisconsin. I write this evening to support the agenda item entitled Approval for Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Services Jail Renovation Project Funding. Our jail is a great facility that has served its purpose well, but it is time for an upgrade. Please remember, the facility was first built in the late 1920s to be a tuberculosis sanatorium before becoming our jail. Things like kitchen inspection failures and the warehouse mentality are beyond what Rock County Jail should be about. We should be able to rehab those who are able to be rehabbed, and we should be able to house those who need to not necessarily in the lap of luxury, but in conditions that are not up to minimum standard. Just because they are prisoners doesn't mean they need to get treated and housed like animals. They are people just like the rest of us and deserve some quality of life despite the fact that they are in jail. 100 years is a very long time for a building to be in use. It is time for more than just a facelift. It's time for a complete upgrade so that the Rock County Sheriff's deputies and administrative staff can more efficiently and effectively do their jobs. We, as a community, need to help set up our law enforcement for success, and a new facility would be a big step in the right direction. The only action to take is to vote yes on this important measure, which I urge everyone on the Rock County Board of Supervisors to do. Second one is from Michael Thompson from Beloit, Wisconsin. I just found this link to send all board members a note regarding the upcoming vote on this tax spend project for building a new Rock County Jail and Sheriff's Office. Taxes and inflation have gutted my income in the past couple of years, and I know many in far worse shape than us. Please vote no and find ways to plan, save, and fund this project. I appreciate the need, but there must be a better way to budget for these things. We need to learn a better way to take. The town of Beloit has taken until I have nothing left to give. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Angel Rodriguez. Please vote no on Resolution 22-497 proclaiming April 28th through May 1st, 2022 as YWCA Stand Against Racism Day. Racism is evil and should be called out and denounced whenever it is seen. The concern the board has shown for disparities between ethnic groups seen in Rock County is born out of genuine care for the people of this county. I'm sure the YWCA mission to end racism in Rock County is also a worthy goal. The fact that disparities between ethnic groups exist cannot be denied, but we must take the effort to dig deeper than skin color to truly determine why they exist. The YWCA recent Race to Equity report does a good job of compiling data, but does not give answers as to why the disparities exist. Instead, the report begins and ends with the assumption that systemic racism is the cause of these differences and fails to take into account other contributing factors. The report only makes mention of 3 ethnic groups: white, Hispanic, and black. Asian people are never mentioned. This may be because Asian people in America outperform all other ethnic groups, despite being a minority group. The Board of Supervisors should think carefully about who they align themselves with and make sure that the whole truth is presented to them before making decisions. If systemic racism is a public health crisis in Rock County, please identify the ordinances that contribute to it all the way or do away with them. You have the power to change the law of our county, do away with racist laws if they exist. Please do not pass a resolution as it supports an organization that's steering us in the wrong direction as our county. That is the last item that was submitted before noon today.
Any comments from supervisors? Supervisor Agater?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention a couple events coming up. So Thursday, April 21st, well, you all have the Stand Against Racism event in front of you, and I hope to see some people there. And also on the back of it is the poster for you to fill out, and you can put that on social media. But also that evening, through Hedberg Public Library, is a program on housing assistance through COVID relief, and that's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And you can find, and that's by Zoom, and you can find the link to sign up either through Hedberg Public Library or the Diversity Action Team of Rock County website. So that is datrockco.org. Also, on Monday, April 25th, 5:30 to 7 p.m., Courageous Conversations will be happening by Zoom. And that topic on April 25th is Disappearing Women, How Treaties and Laws Leave Us Vulnerable. So that is done by the Allies of Native Nations group in our community. So it's about missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I think it's going to really be a worthwhile program. And that is also the information is available on the Diversity Action Team website. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other supervisors wishing to speak at this time? Anything from staff?
Just a reminder to members who won't be returning to the board next term to turn in your iPad and badge tonight before you go. Thank you.
I have one thing to mention. With our new microphones, they are always on. Okay, so make sure that whatever you say is something you want to be broadcast out to the world, because it is. So anyway, next item, please.
Next item. Item 7, nominations, appointments, and confirmations. 7A, confirmation of appointment of the Human Resources Director.
Moved by Supervisor Sweeney, seconded by Supervisor Bryan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody. Dave Slusser, our new HR director, happens to be here with us tonight, so I'd invite Dave to come on up to the podium. I'll give a little background while he's on the way up here. We're very fortunate to have Dave joining our team. Dave has significant experience at high levels of HR in the private sector. Dave worked for many years for GE Healthcare and Johnson Controls, eventually spinning off the Power Solutions part of that organization, and he oversaw that the HR functions for that new company. And sometimes I think about our budget being large and the amount of our organization, our number of staff we have being significant, particularly here in the footprint of the county. But Dave's supervision led to not only the successful spinoff of that company, but we're talking about a $9 billion operation with 16,000 employees, 80 sites over 35 countries, so global reach. So we're very fortunate to have Dave's expertise come to us, and we're just happy to have Dave here. So Dave, if you want to say a few words, we'd like to meet a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to start off with just saying thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to take this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to it. My wife and I moved about 1 year ago, actually, to Rock County. We've been living all over the world, all over the country, and we finally said we were leaving corporate America, and we chose Rock County for multiple reasons. One, it's a beautiful place. Two, my wife's whole family is from this area, so we're excited to have her, after she followed me all over around the world, to become home now. So we're excited to be here, and like I said, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to serve the county and the board and the team as well. So we got a lot of work to start doing on Monday, but I'm looking forward to it. And I'll just give you a really brief background on me. So my wife and I are both natives of Wisconsin. I'm from more of the Wood County, Sauk County area. She's, again, like from Rock County. And we met at UW-Madison, and we went off on active duty from there. We're both veterans. So she was Army Nurse Corps, I was Army Infantry. And we went around the world, like I said, and got out after about 10 years on active duty and joined GE. And was all over the place with GE, and eventually came to GE Healthcare because we were trying to get back to Wisconsin. And so it was great that we were back. Then I took a job with Johnson Controls, like Josh said, and finally we were spun off and sold to private equity. And that's when I decided to hang up the corporate America hat and join in the opportunity in the public service arena. So I'm very excited. We have 3 grown sons. One's graduating in a month from UW-Madison. Please, I hope, if the finals go well. The other 2 are off already on their own, but we really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to serve.
Thanks, Dave. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8A, recognition of county employees or others. 8A, proclaiming April 28th, May through May 1st, 2022 as YWCA Stand Against Racism.
Moved by Supervisor Agater, seconded by Supervisor Crary. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Is Amy Levy here tonight? Amy, if you'd introduce yourself and then give a short spiel.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Levy. I'm the Racial Justice Director for YWCA Rock County. Thank you for passing this resolution and for your time this evening. I will be brief. Randy, thank you for passing out these flyers ahead of time. Supervisor Agater, you did most of the heavy lifting for me, so thank you for that. I hope to see many, if not all of you. We are back in person after 2 years of being virtual. Our program, Stand Against Racism, as many of you may know, each year our theme comes from YWCA USA, and this year it is We Can't Wait, Equity and Justice Now, which speaks to the urgency to engage in work that promotes equity, that works to eliminate racism across many areas, not just in our county, but we'll start there. We are so excited to have Dr. Atira Coleman, our Rock County Equity Manager, as our keynote speaker. We're also going to have 2 phenomenal students from the Fresh Start program in the School District of Beloit. So I'm very excited to hear what all of them have to say. Stand Against Racism. Again, we hope to see you there. Actually, it will be here at the Lower Courthouse Park Amphitheater from noon until 1. Again, that date is Thursday, April 21st, so next Thursday. The other thing that I like to draw your attention to is that there's a fillable sign on the back. Many of you may be familiar. It starts off with, "We need equity and justice now because." And this is your opportunity to make that personal for you. However you believe and whyever you believe, we need equity and justice now. Please complete that. Please take a picture of yourself holding this, and please submit it to our communications director for the YWCA Rock County. That's Miss Carrie Dray, K-Dray, D-R-A-Y, at ywcarockco.com. So again, that's K-Dray, D-R-A-Y, at ywcarockco.com. Again, thank you so much for this resolution and for the continued and sustained work that you will continue to do to support this resolution. And I'm looking forward to seeing many, if not all of you, on next Thursday. Thank you so much.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8B, recognizing human services administrative professionals.
Moved by Supervisor Knutson, seconded by Supervisor Bostwick. Supervisor Knutson? While they're on the way up, we will vote on this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
April 24th through the 30th is observed as Administrative Professionals Week, and April 27th in particular is declared Administrative Professionals Day. Our administrative professional positions in Rock County include accountants, account clerks, admin assistants, application support specialists, and many, many other job positions. The Rock County Board of Supervisors wish to recognize administrative professionals in the Rock County Human Services Department for their excellence in administering services to the service of Rock County. Kate?
Thank you. Our administrative services professionals are the backbone of our very complex and busy department, and nothing happens without them. And so we thank you for your recognition of them, and we promise to do a very good job during that last week of April, recognizing them and affirming their contribution to our work. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8C, recognizing Phil Owens.
Moved by Supervisor Sweeney, seconded by Supervisor Davis. Supervisor Beaver? Is Phil Owens in the house?
Okay, I'll just give a little quick synopsis here. Phil, I worked with him on public safety and justice for a few years, and I appreciated all of his wisdom that he brought to that committee. Also, his friendship. Before each, before each meeting, we'd all get there early and Phil would talk about his Navy days. He had a lot of great stories along with Terry Fell and Hank Brill. You just sat and listened and you were just in awe of what these three guys have done. And Phil was a big part of that conversation. I know he fought to name one of the ships in the area. He's always been going on tours and keeping us up to date on what's going on out there. So I miss him on the board, but I wish him good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. So all in favor of recognizing Phil Owens signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, please.
Next item, 8D, recognizing Terry Thomas.
Moved by Supervisor Knutson, seconded by Supervisor Mohini. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Terry is not here tonight, so let's go to the next item, please.
Next item, 8E, to recognize Jeanne Frober.
Moved by Supervisor Crary, seconded by Supervisor Bryan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Jeanne Frober has served the citizens of Rock County for 25 years as a dedicated and valued employee. She started her career on April 10th, 1985 as Rock County as an accountant clerk 2. She worked as an accountant clerk 3 with Rock County Healthcare Center through November 6, 2007. Ms. Frober was promoted through her excellent service provisions to the DD Board Financial Supervisor, overseeing the budget and financial management of the DD Board programs. She brought compassion and kindness to each interaction as she encountered many individuals within the 7 counties of the Southern Consortium Call Center. She's used her many talents and diligence to benefit many Rock County citizens through her 25-year career. She retired from service on April 10th, 2020. We apologize that we couldn't give this to you sooner with COVID. You are truly one of the most compassionate, caring, and committed employees, always advocating for your clients through the years. Thank you. And Kate would like to say a few words.
Jeanne, we're happy to, better late than never, have the opportunity to congratulate you in person for your 25 years of service to the county and to the Human Services Department at the end for sure, and just happy to see you and hear about how great retirement has been. And so I know that it will continue to be great, and we're very grateful to you. Thanks.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8F, to recognize Linda Najowski.
Moved by Supervisor Bostwick, seconded by Supervisor Bowman. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unfortunately, Linda could not join us tonight. Next item, please.
Next item, 8G, recognizing Thomas Sweeney.
Moved by Supervisor Sweeney, seconded by Supervisor Peer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unfortunately, Tom could not be with us tonight, which is too bad. We all had a few good stories about him. Maybe that's why he stayed away. Next item, please.
Item 8H, recognizing the Honorable Daniel T. Dillon.
Moved by Supervisor Davis, seconded by Supervisor Beaver. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Is Mr. Dillon here tonight?
Judge Dillon.
Judge Dillon, excuse me. Do not see him. Next item, please.
Next item is 9, introduction of new resolutions or ordinances by supervisors for referral to appropriate committee.
Any supervisors wishing to submit a new resolution, please bring it forward at this time. Any supervisor wishing to bring forward a new resolution, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, next item, please.
Next item is item 10, reports. We do not have any reports this evening. Item 11, new business. 11A, supplementary appropriations and budget changes. 11A1, approval of the Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Services Jail Renovation Project funding and amending the Facilities Management 2022 capital budget.
Moved by Supervisor Baumkamp, seconded by Supervisor Davis. Brent, I think we'll have you come forward if you would.
Okay, thank you for letting me get the chance to talk with you, and thank you all for coming tonight. So I felt it was kind of really important, and I was glad to see that the current board, that we've worked this far to this, but with all the knowledge and time that we spent, that we're able to make that final decision and get that final project underway. As we had said before, I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but this started when we first started with the master plan in 2017. We got that completed in 19. And the process has been going through between the Human Services building. And it all really started when we were first looking at, we had the old Rockhaven building and what we're going to do with that. And we studied that 3 times to learn that it's more cost effective to take it down and start over than it was to renovate it again. And so we did a small master plan, and we did that, and we completed that. And that's when Supervisor Yeoman had brought up and said, why aren't we looking at all of our facilities? And so that's when the work started. And we started to work on all the facilities, from taking the big elephant to look at every one of the facilities. We did a conditions assessment. We did needs assessment. We learned that many of our buildings were 600 square feet per person larger than we needed. And if you talk to the staff and efficiencies, they were horrible. So then once we started to work down through the whole process, we came up with a master plan, then we prioritized it, we moved on it. We did find opportunity where we could find one building to renovate to save us some costs, and it's just all come together now to this point. We had gotten down to where we did all the design, and we learned, and we looked at from a safety standpoint, the recidivism, trying to prevent this from continuing to do the same thing where we just kept adding on and building bigger and just not seeing results. So this design, the whole design team worked pretty extensive on trying to fit all of those pieces and make it happen. And that's when we came up with, it was a 1-phase project, not a 2-phase project where we could split things up. And that's when the board approved the $6.1 million to get the engineering and design started. We got going on that, right on track as far as schedule. We hired a construction manager to get in there to start helping us trim costs and figure out ways that made sense to make it most efficient cost-wise. And so we've gotten through to that point, and so that brings us to today, where we're ready to start bidding out, get the site work done, and get going. So if you have any questions, I can, like I said, there's several years of information that I could share, but we've kind of been over that. And
Questions? Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is on the line in the resolution, whereas the design development cost has remained at the original estimate. What does that mean exactly? The design development cost has remained at the original estimate.
yes, we had a projection at $96,600,000 is what the projection was based on what the conceptual design was. So we start off with a conceptual design where we say this is what we got to have, and this is what the architects had figured that they estimated that cost to be. At that time, they're just basically using square footage and typicals. Once you get into the design, that's where our construction managers help keep us in line and be able to say, here's the things you got to have that, the architects don't have all the detail and expertise in. So by the time we're to the end of the design, we were able to keep it within that same footprint with all the needs and come out with all the details and still maintain that budget cost, that budget estimate.
I'll follow up then if you would. So the latest numbers I saw, that construction costs went up 17% in the previous 5 months, which bring the project to about $105 million if it was done the way it was originally designed. how is it still at the same number? How is that possible specifically?
Yep, and that's through the expertise of our construction manager. We've done a lot of estimating. There's areas that we had projections that are higher when they've narrowed down the costs, and there's other projections that are lower. And we also built in contingencies when we were doing all that figuring. But it really comes down to the construction management performance to go in there, to actually be in there, and they're actually calling, they're checking prices, and they're making sure. Same with the design. The architects look at the design and they say, oh, this is perfect, this will work. The construction manager looks at it and says, yeah, but you got 18-foot, deals there, you're gonna need an extra beam, you need to cut this back, you need to move this around, and that's where we can keep our cost in there. So yes, some of the areas went up in cost and some of the areas did not and came down.
One more follow-up then, if inflation continues the way it is and goes another 15 million, this is more of a question maybe for administrator, how will the county pay for additional costs that are above the borrowing costs?
So the first step to that would be, as Brent mentioned, the contingency. Brent, do you want to speak to how much contingency is built in?
Yes, we've got $6 million worth of contingency built in now.
So the next step, I guess, would be as typical in a construction project, if it looks like it's trending over and we've used all of our contingency, then there would be discussions we'd have to have either about not doing things that were in the project initially, but we certainly wouldn't be able to spend any more than that once that contingency is gone without coming back to the board for seek approval. So the top end that you would be considering approving tonight, truly is the top end. We have that contingency for that purpose, but we would have to come back if it got to that. And I can imagine, what Brent's answer would be is, as he's already alluded to, that the reason that we brought on a construction manager in this project is to help us avoid that situation. We've not had this delivery approach before with the construction manager included up front. So part of our strategy to deal with that was to have construction manager expertise on board from the very front end. So we didn't end up there.
Yeah, yes, and if I could add to that, something a little bit different, I wanted to also share that the fact that when we did this design, the sheriff's team, we're very much on it. And I never had a better advocate of keeping the costs down than I did the team that was there. Between telling we can't have this, we got to keep this, we got to keep our costs down. So there's many times when I see the contingency continue to grow, it's the stat that says, I know we didn't know it looked like this, but we really need to have it that way. And this design team that we had that had the sheriffs involved as well as construction management, I'm very comfortable on our pricing. Not to say that it's tight. We do know that.
Other questions? Supervisor Davis.
I was curious, is there a way we can contain some of the cost overruns, change orders and the like? Will that be considered in the process of building the jail?
Yes, we do it. I do it with all of them, but I have to say again, our style of bringing construction management on early is really one of the most advocates that's going to help us keep that down.
Thank you.
Supervisor Baumkamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this project is well overdue. If you look at that building out there, it's 100 years old. If you figure that up, you want to spend just under 100 million, that's 1 million a year. And if you look at that in the future, that's pretty reasonable for a building. The conditions out there that they're working in, the administration, the deputies, the building is falling apart. It needs to be taken care of. We're at a point now where we're trying to get personnel to work there. If they did walk through in the facilities and they went to another department and they saw what their other departments are looking at, it'd be an easy choice to go somewhere else. So this is well overdue. I understand you have to borrow money, but that's the way the government works these days. You can't save $100 million. So I'm in favor of it, and I hope everybody votes in favor of it. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, this requires.
Mr. Chair, there's a resolution on our desk to, is that, are we gonna discuss that at all?
They made let me move this.
for an amendment?
That's the second part.
It is. Isn't, you only have one that's part of this one though, too.
So somebody would need to move that amendment in order for it to be up for discussion.
Because it seems like if we want to amend the borrowing resolution, we need to amend this resolution as well, because there are dollar amounts here.
Are you recommending an amendment, Supervisor Richard?
Yes, I am.
Is there a second to that? Supervisor Mohini?
Oh, here it is, yep. It's on here.
So, Mr. Chair, maybe, because I'm unclear about what the amendment actually is at this point, and members of the public don't have the matter in front of them, so I think we need to describe that amendment more particularly.
Sure. Supervisor Mohini, if you would
Thank
go
you.
ahead, please.
It is in front of you on your desk, but I'd like to add two further be it resolved clause. The first one being that the county administrator is directed to include $4 million of sales tax proceeds in the 23, 24, and 25 county budgets to correspond with the 3 anticipated issuance of notes in order to reduce the borrowing for the project by $12 million. The second one would be it further resolved that the county administrator is directed beginning in the year 2026 county budget to include $1 million of sales tax proceeds annually in the budget to repay debt service on the borrowing, thereby directly reducing property taxes by lowering the debt service levy by $1 million each year until the notes are repaid. And I also believe that there is many sheets of paper here, explanation from Josh on the effect of this.
Supervisor Mowini, can I just offer some, in addition to the therefore resolved clauses that you stated, I do believe that the budget amendment figures that are referencing the line items, so the source of revenue in particular also needs to be amended ahead of that.
So I'd have to do the revised budget of 78?
Yes.
Okay. That's part of my motion.
So just to be clear, so the source of funds line ending in 49100 would be amended to read an increase of, or it would be an increase of 78,440,000. And then which would be in the notes issued, and then the sales tax figure, which would be line 41500, would be 12 million.
Mary, are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion on the amendment?
Do we have a second? I don't think we had a second yet.
We do have a second. Supervisor Sweeney?
Thank you. Josh, could you go over your memorandum to members of the board?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Sweeney. So as you can imagine, it's a complicated project. We know it's the largest project we've ever done, construction project for the county, and so the borrowing is also complicated. And so what Supervisor Mooney asked me to put together, which is the memo on your desk, was an intent of explaining that. So the intent of the amendment is twofold. Sales tax in the amendment that Supervisor Mooney is proposing will reduce taxes in 2 separate ways. So first is the $12 million. So over the next 3 years, the county budget, I would be directed in preparing the county budget to include $4 million of sales tax each year that would have the effect of reducing the upfront borrowing needed to fund the construction costs of the project. So that on the front end would reduce the borrowing needed from that $90,440,000 to $78,440,000. So we anticipate that we would borrow for this project over 3 separate years, given the not necessarily phasing in the way that it's separate phases of the project, but it's just going to be a big project, and so we'd borrow 3 years. If we borrow too much up front, the federal arbitrage repayment rules might get us in trouble on the back end. So that's why we're envisioning 3 separate note issuances. So step 1 is reducing borrowing up front from that 90 million to the 78 million by using 12 million in sales tax over 3 years. The next part of Supervisor Mawhinney's proposed amendment is the $1 million to be included in the, after those first 3 years, in the 19 successive years thereafter, because if you have 3 separate issuances of 20 years apiece, then you're talking about 23 years worth of repayment. So in the next 19 years, the county administrator is directed to include $1 million every year to pay off the debt service. So the $12 million on the front end is used to reduce the amount of borrowing. Then we have to borrow the $78 million. On the back end, then every year $1 million of sales tax would be put in the budget to pay off the debt service. So debt service is both the principal and interest that goes to pay off the borrowed notes. So in that way, we will incur the interest cost, but taxes will be lowered in each of those years by $1 million, because instead of levying for the debt service repayment, and remember, debt service levy is outside of levy limits, so there's no cap on that. So the $1 million each year would go to reducing the debt service costs that would have to be levied against property taxpayers. And so those are the 2 strategies that Supervisor Mawhinney is proposing to reduce the increase in taxes due to this project. And on the back of that memo, there's a table that tries to identify what the differences are between the current resolution and the amended resolution. Some of those numbers I've already spoken to. So in the end, if you consider the $12 million up front, the $19 million over the course of the 19 years, that's a total of $31 million in sales tax over the next 23 years that would be put towards this project. And you can see at the bottom part of that memo in that table there, that in that first resolution, even though we've got a $90 million cost of the project, when you include the interest of that on that as well, that's about $110 million that the county would be repaying using several assumptions for what interest rates might be. Under the amended resolution using similar assumptions, the total debt service costs would be $76.7 million. And then you can see the implication for the taxes there, and the spreadsheets that are attached on your desk as well are much more detailed, ways of thinking about it. The first resolution, the current resolution, the total cost to a $150,000 home, again, based on several assumptions, is $1,218 over that 23-year period. Under the amended resolution, that would be $847. So another way just to average that out, about $55 a year for the average taxpayer with a $150,000 home. Under the amended resolution, it would be $38.49. Again, those are estimates. There's really no way to know exactly what those numbers would be, but so those are estimates, maybe higher, maybe lower, but that's sort of the best we come up with looking that far out. So again, you can see at the very bottom of the page, sort of the reiterating there, $31 million in sales tax used, and ultimately $2.6 million in lower interest payments due to more being borrowed up front. So the assumption there is that results in about $33.6 million less being levered in property taxes over those 23 years for the project. Happy to clarify that or answer questions.
Supervisor Renish.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 questions for Josh. First, bear with me because I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to tax stuff. So when you say the per year cost to an average $150,000 home, does that change the fact that a $150,000 home today is probably going to be worth about $500,000 in 22 years? So is that going to triple the cost, or is that going to stay the same?
Right, so for purposes of illustration, one of the assumptions that we made in running this analysis was holding property values constant, which isn't going to happen, right?
Right.
But the trade-off of that is if we had over the past 20 years, property values, equalized values have gone up by about 4% a year on average. So we could have factored that into the calculation, but then there would have been offsetting costs as well about in a way that would have offset the comparative numbers. And so in that way, the answer to your question which is a very good one, because that is an assumption that we made, is that really the effect would not change because we
Okay.
held two things constant in relation to each other.
So the house today that's worth 150,000 in 20 years will still be paying approximately $55 a year. Oh, or $38 a year if this is passed. Okay, and then my other question, I love the 1 million per year for debt payoff. My only concern, and I'm not saying I'm against this, I just need some assurance that can we as a county afford $4 million a year for 3 years? I mean, how much is in our what do you call it? Our,
The excess.
yeah, how
prior
much
years,
is
yeah.
in there now?
Right.
Because we've had all this COVID funding to supplement our budget, and we're not going to have that. So I don't want to strap us and then have it so that we can't borrow money if we need new roads or plows or whatever, pandemic or whatever. So if you could just touch on that, if you feel as the administrator, if that's something we can afford.
Yeah, so another good question, another good couple of questions as they relate to what is the impact on the county over time. So start by saying the board gets to decide how we spend that sales tax money as you approve the budget every year. And if you so direct, we'll figure out how to allocate that money towards this. You may recall currently we're receiving about $15 million in sales tax a year. As you may recall, I was talking about that actually accelerated during the pandemic, and so we have seen a significant increase over the past couple of years in our sales tax collections. We have $7 million of that sunk into operations, which has been the same amount since 2011, and so that gives us, in rough numbers, another $8 million in sales tax that we devote to capital one-time type costs in the budget going forward. So if we use $4 million of that for this purpose over the next 3 years, that just means that there's $4 million that we wouldn't be able to use for other things. And as you recall, we use that for a variety of things. And over the years, we've sunk that into various areas of the budget discreetly, specifying certain things. For example, we use sales tax now to purchase our sheriff squads every year. Several $100,000 worth of new car purchases for the sheriff's office are paid for by sales tax now. And certainly, there's we sunk a lot of sales tax into highway projects. We've spent a lot of sales tax on just a variety of other facilities, capital-related purchases over time. So you're right to ask. There will be an effect. In those future budgets, there'll be less funding available for other things. So, for example, might there be there might be trade-offs with regard to how we fund other things, like highway projects, for example. We've been very fortunate that we've invested a lot in highway projects, over the past 5, 7, 8 years or so. We used a lot of sales tax funding for that. That might not be as available. We might be able to offset that with the additional federal funding we're getting through the federal government's infrastructure program that you recall approving some applications for in your last few meetings. So we'll just have to be creative about how to keep up with other types of sales tax things, the things that we fund with the sales tax. So again, those are important things to keep in mind. But can we do it? Certainly, we can figure out a way to bring you a budget in those years directed.
I just don't want to. Sorry, and then I'll shut up. It'll probably be the last time you hear from me. I just don't want to strap us to save $17 a year on the average priced home. I don't want a lot of other things being affected for that. So okay, well.
And I appreciate your point, and I think it's a good one. And I think the other comment I would say, to the point about the $1 million a year that you raised, is that the hardest of those years would be the $4 million years, and that once we get to those 19 years where we've got $1 million going in, it will seem comparatively easier than putting $4 million in. And I would expect that during that time, the increase in sales tax collections will also continue to increase, and so it won't be as adversely affecting the budget in those out years. As we have time to plan for that and as the collections grow.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Supervisor Stevens, I noticed your hand up earlier. Do you still have a question?
I guess my question was, where did the number come from? I suppose, where did we come up with, and I guess this is just a question for Supervisor Mawini, the 1 million come from, how was it determined what you, for this amended resolution? Where did those, how was it determined what numbers would be used to come up with the amended resolution?
Well, I think it was Supervisor Richards that brought up the 4 million at finance that last time.
Okay.
And I sat with Josh and we did talk about this, and the 1 million I figured wouldn't affect the use of the sales tax that much, because we always under budget for sales tax. I mean, what did we budget this year, 13? And we got 15.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I would have liked to have said $4 million for the whole time, but I knew I wouldn't get very far with that, so.
Oh, I just wondered if there was a certain reason you were trying to hit this delicate balance or something, or if it was just a number that was just.
Yeah, just the number that, as you said, Supervisor Richard initially came up with and Supervisor Mawini with the $1 million. So in that way, just a number. That is any number, could have been any number that we're debating and could be any number if the board wishes a different one.
Right. And the reason I ask is because, as Supervisor Renish said, it doesn't look like a huge difference between the current, to me at least, the current resolution and the amended resolution. You have $20 on the top line on the current resolution and $20.30, and then $17.61. And I wondered, I mean, I'm sure to some people it's a lot, but when I'm looking at the numbers myself, I'm thinking it's a $3 difference. So why was the number million used for a $3 difference? That's really the only reason I asked.
Supervisor Agater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make absolutely sure that at no point would we have to, if we do this resolution, that at no point we would have, that it would not cause us to raise our sales tax rate, because sales tax definitely disproportionately is put on people who really can't afford a tax increase.
Right. So good question. Good for clarification. Right. So the current 0.5% sales tax that the counties are able to levy right now is set in statute. And so we don't have any control or ability to change that. Once it's in place, the board could decide to no longer levy that tax, but we can't go above that 0.5%. There's a lot of discussion in the legislature and among other local governments about changing that and increasing that, but that would require legislative action.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
Other questions? Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up on Supervisor Stevens' question more on where those numbers came from, the 4 million, a couple months ago, Administrator Smith mentioned we had 6.5 million left over from last year's sales tax. So it seemed to me that 4 million was fairly safe to take on an annual basis for the next 3 years and really help avoid the initial borrowing to keep those costs down. And Supervisor Mawini had the pretty good idea of having very safe 1 million a year for the following years to keep that cost down. We the whole board decided it was a good idea to move this project forward, and we could talk a little more about the tax implications for our citizens. We haven't spent a lot of time discussing that. I don't know if it was discussed in the committees at all that approved this resolution initially. But as the finance director pointed out, in the spreadsheet, $60 a year for everyone with an average price home in Rock County. As to illustrate what that means, a typical increase for Rock County citizens is about $15 for an average price home in Rock County. So just the jail sheriff's office project would be 4 times the average annual increase in dollar amounts for the average home price in Rock County. Another way illustrated is senior citizens in Rock County. There's about 27,000, about 21,000 live just on Social Security. And their increase every year averages about $250. So just the increase for the jail project and the sheriff's office would be would take 1/4 of their increase for the year, which is meant to pay for inflation in energy and food and medicine and housing and so on. And then, of course, add in all the rest of our regular tax increase at the county level, add in the regular tax increase at the school level, and in the cities, pretty soon seniors are going to have half of their COLA increase taken by tax increases every year. So this amendment seems like a minor way to reduce that, and it helps a little bit. I think it helps folks in fixed income, the seniors the most. I think it helps all taxpayers of Rock County, and it makes sense just to do something because we didn't save for any of this. We could have been saving 5 years ago when we did the master plan. We didn't do that. So this is something we can do now to reduce the tax burden on taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Other comments? Supervisor Crary.
You know, when I was out walking and knocking on doors pre-election, this came up a few times, and I was asked by those homeowners why this wouldn't be a referendum. So the fact that some time was put into attempting to ease the burden on the taxpayers is something that I absolutely appreciate by Supervisor Mawhinney and the others that have worked hard on this. And so I do like the amendment, and I appreciate it. So, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Supervisor Peer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too would support the adjustment. I think the taxpayers really appreciate that. Another thing that I'm wondering about is in borrowing terms, our bond rating. Does this affect the bond rating? And here's the thing that I'm really wondering about. It seems like it's very hard for us to get a better bond rating than where we are right now. But I'm in my mind, I'm thinking of a bracket. It's hard to get above that next bar, but are we close to the bottom? Would this affect, how you're always concerned about, well, I want to stay where I'm at in that bond rating. Of course, we want to get as good a one as we can for borrowing purposes. Can someone share their expertise on where we are on that gap?
Yeah. So as you may recall, we're just one step below a AAA bond rating, which is the highest you can get. And given the demographics and the economic situation in our county, we've been told that we're unlikely to ever get to AAA. And so in a way, we're kind of punching above our weight, I would say. And so we would be concerned about that, right? We always talk about that, as you say, Supervisor Peer, but the conversations we've had with bond counsel, with our financial advisor, is that we don't have concerns that this alone would have any impact on future bond ratings.
Zero.
So we're not concerned about that. Doesn't mean we still don't want to be diligent about financial management. We have a long history of strong financial management, conservative budgeting, and the way that stuff has been mentioned here with regard to our sales tax, making sure that we don't over budget for that in a way that we have a deficit we have to draw on the general fund. So we feel pretty good about that this project would not adversely affect our bond rating. And as another point about, how much can we borrow? There's a state law that limits how much counties can borrow. And right now, as you've seen some of maybe the presentations of the Finance Committee in the past, we're very low. We've historically been very low, and obviously this is a very big project, and we've had other projects recently with the Dr. Williams Center and so forth. But even at the maximum of this borrowing at the $90 million level, we would end up about 27% of our debt limit, which again is still comparative to 100% is low, right? We have a lot of capacity left, so we would not be planning to exceed that. But it's just illustrative of the fact that even though it's a lot of money, we have not historically done a lot of borrowing, even though given the implementation of the master plan, we're in a spate of borrowing right now, but we'd still only be at 27% of our debt limit statutorily which still puts us in a pretty good position.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rashkin.
Thank you. Just a brief comment. I plan to vote against this resolution. Besides being continuously puzzled how saving $3 a year justifies getting rid of any particular service as a general mindset, I think in this case we have a situation where we're looking at borrowing 78 or 90 million, and we're within our bounds of what's reasonable for us to borrow. And on the other hand, we can kind of tie our hands in terms of what we're able to do with our sales tax revenue going forward. And it seems more of a solution in search of a problem. So I'm going to vote against it. That's about it. Thank you.
Supervisor Baumkamp.
This is for Josh. My question is, we used to, at the city, put money away for fire trucks every year, and our formula, the more we had saved, kind of hurt our shared revenue. Is the county that way also? I mean, that's why we don't save money, correct?
So it's different for municipalities. There's different shared revenue type formula, and municipalities, cities, for example, have the expenditure restraint program, which is not applied to counties. So in that way, no, it's a different situation. So there's nothing that would have, in theory, kept the county from putting away funds for capital projects. There is, one of the reasons, for example, we used to put away funds every year into an account to buy the sheriff's squads, as I mentioned, because it was several $100,000 every year. But given, so that was prior to the implementation of the sales tax. And when we transitioned to the sales tax, we knew we would always have, we knew we'd always have that, the ability to fund those through the sales tax once we committed to it. And so it didn't necessarily require us setting aside, one year we need $400,000, next year we need $300,000 for squads, and it became almost more of a challenge to figure out how much to put aside every year for that into this balance sheet account. And so, but directly to your question, it's not the same issue with regard to shared revenue the city faces.
Other questions, comments? Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's been a couple comments on this amendment, amended financing saving $3 a year. The spreadsheet I'm looking at changes the amount on the average house price from $60 to about $42. So it seems like it saves about a third of the overall cost on an average price house.
What number is that?
Well, the top one is 3, but if you go down and start looking at it, it'll get to 20. Only the top one is 3.
No, when Rick says a third, I'm just saying, what is the number?
Would the administrator clear that up?
Oh, sure. So I think the best number to look at, if I'm understanding people's points correctly, if we're talking about the difference between the two resolutions in the average taxes on our average home, if you look in the back of that memo, even though the details are on the spreadsheet, the best place to look, I think, is in the back of the memo in that table at the very bottom, where in the current resolution that the average annual taxes are $55, and of the amended resolution it's about $38.50. So I think that would be, if that's the question, is what is the difference with regard to taxes on a home? That's the best estimated answer we can give. Is that, Supervisor Richards, that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And that's based on today's interest rates, which will almost certainly be higher.
That number is 17. That's what I was just looking for.
Other comments, questions?
17. It's not 3, it's 17.
Right.
Comments, questions? Okay, we will vote on the amendment. Lisa, if you'd please read that back for us.
So you have the resolution amendments in front of you. It changes the source of funding for the note bonds from $90,440,000 to $78,440,000. It changes sales tax from 0 and ups that to 12 million. And then on the back of that page, there's the two further be it further resolved clauses. The first one is, be it further resolved that the county administrator is directed to include 4 million of sales tax proceeds in the 2023, 2024, and 2025 county budgets to correspond with the 3 anticipated issuances of notes in order to reduce borrowing for the project by $12 million. The second is, be it further resolved that the county administrator is directed, beginning in the 2026 county budget, to include 1 million in sales tax proceeds annually in the budget to repay debt service in the borrowing, thereby directly reducing property taxes by lowering the debt service levy by 1 million each year until the notes are prepaid.
Further questions before we vote on the amendment? This will be roll call. Please vote.
Yes, 22, no 3, absent 4.
Thank you. Back to the original motion. Comments, questions on that? Seeing none, again, roll call. Please vote.
Twenty-four yes, 1 no, 4 absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, item 11B, contracts. 11B1, contracting with SGTS Inc. for professional services for the Bosch BVMS security camera software updates, and security maintenance contract.
Moved by Supervisor Bryan, seconded by Supervisor Knutson. Supervisor Bryan.
Pass this off.
Brent, if you'd come forward, please.
Yes, this resolution, it combines two of the different issues that we're doing with SGTS, our security vendor. As you guys are aware, we started since I came back in since 17, we started upgrading our security systems. Particularly, quite a bit we invested at the courthouse. And then we started redoing the jail cameras were quite a bit outdated. Time is flying by us really fast. Our software on our courthouse is already 5 years old. And our jail is already 3 years old on our software. And they informed me that we were two stages behind in that software, and that's where the 27 was to bring it current. And then the maintenance contract, which was in need, as the stuff starts to age, we need to start doing different maintenance on it. We looked at our repair costs, we'd have our call-ins, and some of it's just tweaking and editing. We found this to be the most cost-effective way. And then the maintenance contract, the annual, is for all of our buildings. Some of it is already new, so we don't need the software upgrades, but the maintenance contracts includes all of the upgrades each year so that we don't fall behind again like this and have a $27,000 catch-up. So with this here, we'll stay current with all of our security cameras, card readers, duress, and arms like that.
Questions for Brent? Seeing none, this is roll call. Please vote.
Yes, 25, 0 no, 4 absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, 11C, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds and/or notes in an amount not to exceed $440,000 for facilities capital projects.
Moved by Supervisor Knutson, seconded by Supervisor Crary. Supervisor Mohini, if you would.
I was on the other one.
Do you want me to give a brief overview of the?
Go ahead, Josh. Sorry, Mary.
Okay. So the initial borrowing resolution, we've had these in front of you many times before. What initial borrowing resolution does is it's something that's required by law that we have to do every time we're going to go out for borrowing. So this one, again, relates directly to the Sheriff's Office project. And so there's two resolutions that need to occur whenever we conduct borrowing. One that is the initial borrowing resolution that's in front of you now. The other one will be the resolution when the notes are actually sold, and you approve that, which will occur, after we've already gone to market. And so one of those two resolutions must be passed with 22 votes of this body, and we always like it to be this one, because if this one passes with less than 22, and we get to the resolution after the bonds have already been sold and it does not pass by 22, the whole deal is off, and that's a significant problem for us and for people who are expecting to buy the notes that we've issued. So we ask for 22 votes, and hopefully if you're interested in pursuing this project, that we'll get 22 votes. It's important that we don't pass it with less than 22 as well, because then we've also, even though it's passed, it's less than 22, and that also provides the same problem for us. So this is just the initial resolution. As I said, there'll be another one that comes back when the notes are issued, actually approving the sale. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Supervisor Mulligan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if the 90,440,000 for facilities capital projects should be amended to 78,440,000.
I think given the previous action, that would be a fair amendment.
I would like to offer that amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? Supervisor Bostwick? Discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Stevens?
I guess I'm wondering why it has to be 22. Isn't 2/3? Is that the 2/3 number?
It's
I thought
three
it was
quarters. For budget amendments, it's 2/3, but for this specific one, it's got to be 3/4, which is why it becomes 22.
Have I missed something the whole time I've been here? Why is that?
It's just
Don't laugh, everyone.
Yeah,
Why
it's we don't do a lot of borrowing, and so this doesn't come up very often, maybe a couple of times a year at the most, and it's usually on like highway projects, and everyone votes unanimously, and it's usually not an issue. So it's just not, it doesn't come up very often. So
okay, so this is different. Okay.
It's different, yep.
But I was sleeping the whole time. Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Lisa, would you please read the amendment before we vote?
So in the resolution, it would change the 90,440,000 to 78,440,000. Those are the only changes. There's two spots in that amendment.
And this will reflect the resolution we did earlier. Other comments, questions? Roll call, please vote.
$25 yes, 0 no, 4 absent.
Thank you. We're back to the original motion. Comments, questions on that? Seeing none, this is roll call. Please vote.
24 yes, 1 no, 4 absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is 8I, recognizing Stephanie Agutter.
Moved by Supervisor Knutson, seconded by Supervisor Renish. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Supervisor Levy, if you would come forward, please.
If I need to go up there?
Like her, she said, should I come up there? I'm like, yeah. What are you doing? Just before I read this resolution, let me just share something, and Stephanie didn't know I was gonna say this, but when I first got on the county board, there was a lot of friendly faces, and you're always nervous when you get here. Your first meeting, it's like, what is going on here? But I just noticed that every time I looked kind of in her direction or something, she always just had a smile on her face and kind of give you that warming effect of, it's gonna be okay without saying the word. So even when she's sitting over there and sometimes she just turns around and she has this smile on her face, it's kind of like, whatever's going on, it's gonna be okay. So I just wanted to thank you for that. See what I mean? There you go. So with that being said, resolution, Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizing Stephanie Eggeter. Whereas Stephanie Eggeter served on the county board from 2017 to 2022, representing District 25. And whereas Stephanie has devoted many hours to faithful serve on the following standing committees: Agriculture and Extension Education Committee, Finance Committee, Human Services Board, Land Conservation. Other committees: Blue Ribbon Commission on Organizational Excellence. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes Stephanie Eggeter for her dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends her for her contributions to the betterment of Rock County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors duly assembled this 14th day of April, 2022, does hereby recognize Stephanie Eggeter for her service and extend best wishes in her future endeavors.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. It's absolutely been a pleasure to serve, and I wish I could do it longer. I hope I can be back in some capacity. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8J, recognizing Wayne Casino.
Moved by Supervisor Pudzilny, seconded by Supervisor Richard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next item, please.
Next item, item 8K, recognizing Jacob Taylor.
Moved by Supervisor Rashkin, seconded by Supervisor Renish. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Yuri?
All right. Well, this is very exciting because not only is this first 12-year-old ever elected to Rock County Board of Supervisors. Just kidding. Thank you. Good material. Good material. But Jacob was also my student at UROC, and it's really exciting to see him kind of go through these stages, and now he's going to be working out at the Capitol. So I don't know, maybe governor of future, who knows? In the meantime, whereas Jacob Taylor served on the county board from 2020 to 2022, representing District 16, which now I will be representing because of the numbers. So thanks. Good number. Whereas Jacob has devoted many hours to faithfully serve on the following standing committees: Education, Veterans, and Aging Services Committee. Thank you. Always brings a lot of common sense. I really appreciate it. Public Safety and Justice Committee and other committees, Local Emergency Planning Committee. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes Jacob Taylor for his dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends him for his contribution to the betterment of Rock County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors duly assembled thus hereby recognize Jacob Taylor for his service and extends best wishes in his future endeavors. Thank you, Jacob.
Yuri, I hope I was a better supervisor than I was a student. And like he said, I move into the legislature. So some of you, I'll be working for Representative Don Bruink. So a few of you, I know Sweeney, I think Moini, and Richard, I think. There's maybe a couple more, but, yeah. So I hope that, you know, those of you that are still serving on the board will, you know, think of me as your connection for Don for anything you need from the state. So thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8L, recognizing Bob Yeomans.
Moved by Supervisor Mohini, seconded by Supervisor Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Josh, you stood in for Bob earlier for the photo. Do you want to stand in and give a speech or pass?
On behalf of Supervisor Yeomans, thank you very much.
That's about how long his speech would have been.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8M, recognizing Danette Renish.
Moved by Supervisor Beaver, seconded by Supervisor Mohini. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Mary, if you would.
It's my honor to be able to do this recognition for Danette. She was on the Public Safety Committee with me, and I enjoyed her being on there. She, as you guys all know, she'll ask those questions. And you better have the answers, because she's probably already got them, and it's just testing us all. So I wish you luck. You know, the next 2 years, and you know, like I told you earlier, always come back. That's right. So whereas Danette Renish served on the county board from 2018 to 2022, representing District 3, and whereas Danette has devoted many hours to faithfully serve on the following: standing committees, Board of Health and Public Safety and Justice. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes Danette Renish for her dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends her for her contributions to the betterment of Rock County. We are a little corner back there that always has treats, just so you all know that. And I found out that she loves these. So I had to get her own little box.
Little.
Well, yeah, there's only 24 in there. That's all right. So you can think of me when you're eating those things. So.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say it's been an honor, and I definitely have the bug now, so you'll still be seeing me, and I'm going to try again in 2 years.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, 8N, recognizing Robert Potter.
Moved by Supervisor Bryan, seconded by Supervisor Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item, please.
Next item, 8O, recognizing Dave Holman.
Moved by Supervisor Baumkamp, seconded by Supervisor Agater. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Supervisor Bryan?
Who that is?
You know, I've been on the General Services Committee with Dave, and he's really been the champion of some initiatives that Rock County has come through with his solar energy, the broadband, the electric, the electric charging stations. So he's definitely going to be missed. Whereas Dave Holman served on the Rock County Board from 2019 to 2022, representing District 26, whereas Dave has devoted many hours to faithfully serve on the following standing committees: General Services, Southwest Regional Airport Board, Board of Health, Human Services Board. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes Dave Holman for his dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends him for his contributions for the betterment of Rock County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors duly assembled this 14th day of April 2022 does recognize Dave Holman for his service and extends his best wishes in his future endeavors. Thanks, Dave.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. It's been an absolute treat working with all of you, and I've made some very good friends on the county board, and I'm so pleased to say that you are truly friends. So we've had some interesting conversations over the past few years, hoping that the things we were able to accomplish can actually push the county forward in the future. So I thank you so very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 8P, recognizing Mike Mulligan.
Moved by Supervisor Mohini, seconded by Supervisor Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Supervisor Sweeney, if you would.
It's always a bit sad to lose a dedicated supervisor, a supervisor that participates in his committee meetings and here at County Board, such as Mike does. Whereas Mike Mulligan served on the Rock County Board from 2020 to 2022 representing District 7, and whereas Mike has devoted many hours of faithfully serving on the following standing committees: Land Conservation and Public Works. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognized Mike Mulligan for his dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends him for his contributions to the betterment of Rock County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors duly assembled in this 14th day of April 2022 does hereby recognize Mike for his service and extends the best wishes for future endeavors.
I'd just like to thank the county board and the staff for the recognition here tonight. And I've had a wonderful experience in my time here. And I'm going to take my knowledge and use it wherever I can. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, 8Q, recognizing Pam Bostwick.
Moved by Supervisor Richard, seconded by Supervisor Wilson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Supervisor Knutson.
Whereas Pam Bostwick has served on the county board from 2020 to 2022, representing District 21. Pam has devoted many hours to faithfully serve on the following: Education, Veterans, and Aging Services Committee, Human Services Board, Aging and Disability Resource Center, and the Council on Aging. Whereas Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes you, Pam, for your dedicated services to the citizens of Rock County, and commend you for all of your contributions. It's truly been an honor to work with you in Human Services Board. You've brought a lot of great wisdom, insight, and asked great questions, and we thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, this has been an interesting 2 years for me, having been in the past a 32-year county employee and then coming to this end of the spectrum. I've used a lot of my knowledge that I had from being an employee and background as an employee in the various departments, because I worked in several departments, many I should say. Plus I was also the union rep for a lot of folks. So I know I've asked a lot of questions, I've spoke my
my piece on various items, and I intend to keep in touch with everything that's going on. So you'll probably see me up here under public comments a few times in the near future. So thanks again, and it was wonderful being here.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, 8R, recognizing Shirley Williams.
Moved by Supervisor Agater, seconded by Supervisor Richard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Next item, 8S, recognizing Wes Davis.
Moved by Supervisor Sweeney, seconded by Supervisor Renish. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Supervisor Levy.
I gotta drag you out.
Ask a few questions.
Ask your wife.
As a student, you always wonder what can you do to get the teachers back. So this is my opportunity. I had Mr. Davis at a Roosevelt Junior High School. That's on Keeler Avenue in Beloit, the administrative building that no longer exists now. So kind of tells how far back we go. And the way that he is on the county board is exactly the way he was as a teacher, just kind of laid back, assigned assignments, kind of worked with you on that, but never yelled, never screamed, but just kind of encouraged you along the way. And he did the same thing when I got on the county board. He was the same type of person here, asking me, what do you need to learn, and pointing me in the right direction. So I greatly appreciate that. And he kept saying, you can call me Wes. And I was like, I can't call you Wes. You are my teacher, so I have to call you Mr. Davis. But I just personally want to thank you for everything you've done, encouraging me along the way. And so we'll read this unless Rich has something.
You read that, I'll say my thing, and then I'll let Wes go.
All right. Whereas Wes Davis served on the county board from 2014 to 2022, and whereas Wes has devoted many hours to faithfully serve on the following standing committees: County Board Staff, Vice Chair, Finance, Land Conservation, Planning and Development Committee, and then other committees, work group to study high nitrate levels in Rock County groundwater, Arrowhead Library System. Whereas the Rock County Board of Supervisors recognizes Wes Davis for his dedicated service to the citizens of Rock County and commends him for his contributions to the betterment of Rock County. Now therefore, be it resolved that the County Board of Supervisors duly assembled this 14th day of April, 2022, does hereby recognize Wes Davis for his service and extends best wishes in his future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't supposed to be a part of this presentation here, but I could not resist. I would like to thank Wes for being a good vice chair, for being a good confidant, and being a good friend. And I will mention that as chair, I do sign the per diem sheets. And after a while, I noticed a little bit of a pattern. Wes was turning in lots of requests, and they all happened to be around the lunch hour, meaning that the events he was going to would serve lunch. So I know the way he rolls. Roll out the food, Wes will be there. In all seriousness, he will be missed. He's done a really good job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed working with everyone in this room, and even when we disagree, I tend to make up with you a little later. I really appreciate the fact that you've been so good and so kind. I'd like to recognize the citizens of Rock County and thank them for their support. I also want to thank Russ Podzilny and Rich Bostwick for their guidance and leadership over the years I've been on the board. Another thing I'd like to mention is that our county board, I think, is perhaps the best one in the state. I've been around the state and seen other county boards in action, and we really accomplish a lot, and we do it together. And I see about 90% of the time we agree. 4 or 5%, maybe we might not agree. We can argue with the points, and 5% of the time we solve problems. So I think that's really a testament to your integrity and the kind of people that you are, and I hope that continues in the future. Our motto for our state is forward, and that was developed in 1851. It was come to in a decision between Governor Nelson Dewey and another gentleman named Ryan, who is on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. What they did was they proposed that the state seal, below the state seal, there should be the word, I'm trying to think what it was, but nonetheless, they had an argument and they decided on another word, forward. And we've been moving forward in this county, more so than many other counties, and I surely do appreciate that. It does call to mind the future charge of the new county board. I want to see to it that you move the future board forward and keep moving it that way. I think that's terribly important. That is our goal as citizens of Wisconsin. Thank you very much.
Get a picture of you at the podium. Through the last one, I was too busy listening.
I got his picture.
I did neglect one thing. It's really been a pleasure to have 3 of my old students on the board with me. I didn't put them up to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, 12, adjournment.
Moved by Supervisor Pudzilny, seconded by Supervisor Bostwick. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.